Hey y'all, we're going to go ahead and work out of the cookbook today on page 25. If you have our cookbook, it's on page 25. If you do not have our cookbook, I will put the link above and below in the comments for you to get yourself one. So you're going to need 2 pounds of ground beef and 2 pounds of beef stew meat, beef cubes, whatever you want to call it. And I got a tablespoon of olive oil in my pot. And we're going to put our ground beef and beef cubes in our pot and get them browned. All right, y'all, so let's go ahead and get our ground beef in here. And then let's get our 2 pounds. This is 1 pound. Here's 2 pounds of our stew meat. And we're going to go ahead and brown this all together until it's no longer pink. All right, y'all. So once your meat is no longer pink, you want to go ahead and drain this, get all the grease out, and you want to put your meat in a separate bowl and set it to the side. And then we're going to need 2 peppers, 2 jalapenos, and 2 onions. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get this drained up and we're going to put this to the side. All right, y'all. So next thing you need is 2 tablespoons of butter. We got it in the bottom of our pan. We have 2 onions chopped, 2 bell peppers chopped. We're going to throw those in there. And then we're going to need 2 jalapenos, seeded and chopped up. And we're going to put those in there. And we are going to get these all nice and softened. So this should take about 5 to 10 minutes. All right, y'all. So once your vegetables are starting to get softened, we're going to go ahead and add 4 tablespoons of minced garlic. And then we're going to let this cook for another 5 minutes. So let's go ahead and stir this up and let this cook up for another 5 minutes. All right, y'all. Now we are going to add in 3 cans of stewed tomatoes, and I'm using the onion, celery, and bell pepper ones. You can use plain, that's fine. But I am going to use the onion, celery, and bell pepper stewed tomatoes. And you're going to need 3 cans. So there's 1. There's 2. And then there's 3. Okay. The next thing we're going to add in is 2 cans of kidney beans. You want to go ahead and drain those and rinse those as well. So you want 2 cans of those. Okay. The next thing we're going to add in is 2 cans of diced tomatoes. And I'm using almost all low sodium. You do not have to, but I can control the salt at the end. Then we need 1 can, and again, low sodium chili beans and chili sauce. We're going to dump that in there. Now, the recipe does not call for this. You do not have to add this at all, and you don't have to add any liquid in replace of this, but I am going to use 1 can of beer, and we're going to put that in there as well. Then we're going to need some white vinegar. Now we're going to add in 2 tablespoons of white vinegar. Okay, now we're going to need some hot sauce. All right, now we're going to add in 1 teaspoon of your choice of hot sauce. Okay. Now we're going to add in 2 tablespoons of sugar. All right, let's add in 1 tablespoon of chili powder. Then we are going to need 2 teaspoons of cumin. 1, 2. The next thing we're going to need is oregano, and we're going to need 1 teaspoon of oregano. Okay, we're going to need 1 teaspoon of salt. All right, now you're going to need 1 teaspoon of either seasoned salt or the Southern Boys seasoning, all-purpose Cajun seasoning. And you can find that on their website. And they also have a Facebook page. You can go ahead and check them out. So again, either seasoned salt or use your Southern Boys all-purpose seasoning because it's kind of like a seasoned salt. So the next thing we're going to need is some celery salt. And we're going to need 1 teaspoon of that. And then we're going to need a 1/4 teaspoon of cayenne pepper. Okay, so 1/4 teaspoon of cayenne pepper. And then we are going to need 2 teaspoons of beef bouillon powder. I am using this. And then we are going to want 1 teaspoon of black pepper. Okay, so here's our 1 teaspoon of black pepper. Now we're going to go ahead and give this a stir. All right, y'all. So now we're going to go ahead and add in our ground beef and our beef cubes into the pot. And then we are going to cook this on a simmer for about 2 hours. Okay, so let's get this all mixed together. And again, just check your salt because I used all low sodium. If you do not use all low sodium, your salt will be fine. But if you do use low sodium, you may have to add a little bit of salt. But you want to put a lid on it, let it simmer for about 2 hours. All right, y'all, so the chili is all done. It's been simmering for 2 hours. You can do it longer if you want. So we are going to have this with some cornbread, some cheesy cornbread. So if anybody has any comments, questions, or concerns, don't hesitate to reach out. The link for the cookbook will be above and below this post if you want to get yourself one of those. And the chili recipe is in there. There's also my grandmother's cornbread recipe in there. So give this a try, and I hope everybody has a wonderful day.